A man may die, nations may rise and fall, but an idea lives on. This is a quote by our former president, John F. Kennedy. Now, how does an idea live on? Well, the answer is simple. An idea lives on through your actions, your words. And John F. Kennedy, he did an amazing job at expressing his ideas. He let the people know what he was feeling, and he did it in a great way. He showed great enthusiasm, charisma, and the people even loved his smile. But what makes his ideas different than ours? He used special techniques to express his ideas. According to Biography magazine, published in 1999, he was profiled as one of the top 10 most influential people. Not only did Biography magazine think he was great, but he will be forever remembered as one of the most well-liked presidents of all time. Because when he talked, people listened to him. He would sway a crowd with the words he spoke. According to WhiteHouse.com, John F. Kennedy was the youngest man elected president. Unfortunately, he was also the youngest man to die while president. He was assassinated on Friday, November 22nd, 1963, and they still don't know who killed him. It aroused a lot of government suspicion to conspiracy theories about the government. A public opinion poll was held 20 years after his assassination, and according to PresidentProfiles.com, he most inspired confidence in the White House, with 40% of the people behind him. Also, a nice 60% of the public thought that he had the most appealing personality. Not only was Kennedy a great public speaker, but he had an impact on the White House and on his people. This only goes to show that yes, you can kill a man, but his ideas will live on. And that certainly goes to show that Kennedy's ideas live on today. We will read about him in the history books and about his famous speeches. Now today, we will inform you about the accomplishments of John F. Kennedy and the techniques that he used through his speeches.
As our 35th president, it is no wonder John F. Kennedy has impacted us on such a great level. His accomplishments has influenced us and has opened new doors even in our futures. From establishing the American Peace Corps to leading us through the Cuban Missile Crisis, John F. Kennedy has been the epitome of perfection through his presidency. He led the American people through several tribulations and did a good job. The Cuban Missile Crisis was the first major Cold War confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union. According to the 6th edition of the Columbian Electronic Encyclopedia, this confrontation succeeded due to the major role John F. Kennedy took part in for the whole situation. The Peace Corps was established by President John F. Kennedy by his executive order in 1961. Its purpose was to assist underdeveloped countries in meeting their needs. Some say one person can change the world, but what sets aside those who make it into the history books and ordinary people like you and me? It is beautiful, really, the way John F. Kennedy swayed the crowd with his words. In minutes, he can change the way people thought. As stated in the presidentialexpert.com, John F. Kennedy was a personification of charisma. He was always smiling, and he was very enthusiastic about the ideas he was transferring to his audience. He knew how to project himself into the hearts of the American people well. In his speeches, John F. Kennedy used different techniques. For example, he would always balance his words. In his speeches, John F. Kennedy usually gave little information, and consequently, he put in no controversy. For example, some statements he would say, signifying an end as well as a beginning, signifying change as well as renewal. He would balance one thing with another, therefore you can't say he said something wrong. Or another example, we must never negotiate out of fear, but we must never fear to negotiate. He also used much hyperbole in order to make his audience think more deeply about the effects of what he was saying. According to LanguageStudies.com, one of the main rhetorical devices John F. Kennedy used was hyperbole. For example, when he states, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty." He shoots things at you. Part of being a successful speaker is knowing how to relate to your audience. John F. Kennedy succeeded in this remarkably. Just look at the previous statements. John F. Kennedy used a lot of words such as we, us, and together. He made the audience think in a kind of we're all in this together mentality. President Kennedy utilizes these words to the best of his ability and succeeded in this. For example, "We dare not forget today that we are the heirs of that first revolution," or "Let both sides explore what problems unite us instead of belaboring those problems which divide us." In all his speeches, he makes us one and unites us.
Okay, public speaking can be a terrifying concept for a lot of people. Standing up in front of a crowd with all these eyes watching you and just judging you, it's terrifying. Even for the president, I'm sure he got nervous once or twice in his lifetime. The only difference was we gave a speech to a classroom of 30-some odd people. He gave a speech to a nation. A nation filled with like hope, people that needed hope. They were just hoping that someone would give them the way. Luckily for us, we have people to look up to, like John F. Kennedy. They demonstrate a lot of practice. They demonstrate what a lot of practice, convincing words, and a bit of poise can do. So I ask you, does this public speaking class matter? Think about it. Where would we be if John F. Kennedy had not spoke those famous words? Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Or what about Martin Luther King? What if he had not said, "I have a dream"? Today we have talked to you about JFK, the person, the president, and the speaker. So I ask you again, does this 2-hour class we take for half a semester for 2 hours twice a week matter? How about you ask John F. Kennedy? Or how about you ask Martin Luther King? Or how about you ask 200,000 civil rights supporters who were there for Dr. King's speech? Or how about you ask the women fighting for women's rights in third world countries, or the men fighting for equal rights at work? Or how about you ask the teacher who wakes up every morning to teach a public speaking class? Just ask them. It matters. There is nothing more important than voice, speech, than being heard, and more importantly, the ultimate goal of the speaker, proving a point, moving a crowd. John F. Kennedy understood it, Dr. King understood it, Gandhi understood it, many speakers understand it. There are millions of speeches every day throughout the world, but there's only few that move an audience, that change the world. So, be a better public speaker.